Welcome to the Rich Live Show on the MSE Network.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Rich. Thank you so much for the invitation, for being here tonight. And I want to say hello to your listeners, to your viewers, and I'm just excited about what is happening not only today, but in on Tuesdays going forward, but what's happening in the atmosphere. And so, thank you for your vision. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm ready. Let's go. Let's do this.
You see that? I told you. It has a lot of energy. She has a lot of energy and driven. And I'm going to have her introduce herself to you guys. No one can do it better than her. Um, Long laundry list of accomplishments, needless to say, but really solidifies the work that she's been doing and the work that can be done, and there's still work to be done. And have a very interesting story that I think is amazing, and I can't wait to dig into it. So we're going to spend this first hour speaking about who she is, where she come from, how did she pop up into the MSC network and decide to partner with us on what we're doing here at the MSC network. So we're excited about that. Dr. Marcea, please tell the audience a little bit about yourself. What is it that we need to know about you, and why? And who is Dr. Marcea?
Absolutely. And thank you. So I am Dr. Marcea Burnett Whitaker, and I am a physician and have been one for a little over 25 years. And I transitioned I shouldn't say transition, but I added on being a master destiny life coach. And I'm also an international speaker as well as a best-selling author. And I say that just to kind of give some descriptions of me so that you kind of know, but there's so much more in there. And but the bottom line is that I am passionate about helping people change their lives. And I said that's the bottom line here. And we can do that so many different ways, but there's a unique way that I do it that I want to empower people in general, but definitely women to move from where they are to where they want to be.
Well said. Well said. So there you have it. This is Dr. Marcea. Tell us, what area are you located in?
Absolutely. I'm in the DMV. Where
Oh,
else? Where
another
else? And I
DMV.
think Veronica, I saw her in the chat. Veronica, DMV, Veronica,
Is it?
we're here in the DMV.
There's I think Yvette,
Oh, Yvette. Oh, Yvette. Okay. My
Dave,
bad. Yvette.
and music.
And music. There we go. Let me hear from the DMV folk in the chat.
The DMV folks are taking over. I tell you, I love it. I love it. We have a pretty nice listening base in the DMV area, and I love it. Um, Want to shout out TK Barlow real quick, and also Danielle Brown, who's going to have a wonderful show tomorrow. So make sure you tune in tomorrow, because these are they're also girl bosses. Quick tidbit about TK Barlow and Danielle Brown: they are actually in leadership here at the network. So this kind of is a great prelude to what we're going to be speaking about tonight. So I want to dive right into it and start asking my own questions. And at some point, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to ask me questions or even call in. I might be giving away some good stuff. Hey,
Ooh.
she's an author, so maybe we can give away some books. And we have some other good stuff that we want to give away. So we'll put the number up when the time is appropriate. So I want to dive right into it. All right, Dr. Marcea, how is it that you got into the idea of even becoming a physician or doctor or nurse or whatever it is that you did? Let's talk about that a little bit.
So I remember when I was in grade school, and my best friend and I, we've known each other since we were in third grade. And somewhere, I think in high school, we decided that we were both going to be physicians because we wanted to help people. And we were going to have a practice together, and we were going to be pediatricians. And somewhere through the process, when I was in residency and it was time to, take care of kids, I didn't want to hurt them. I didn't want to practice on them. And I found myself gravitating to adults. And so I'm an internal medicine physician. So my best friend, she's a pediatrician, but we didn't do that practice together, but that's how we got to this place.
Oh, very interesting. Very interesting. Um, so when we started posting the pictures of you and you're looking beautiful and astonishing, just very stunning. Uh, do not look like the typical doctor. There's nothing in the white coat. Um, so I've been hearing statements. Like typically doctors do not look glamorous. They're pretty. When I was young, the doctors and nurses I saw, they were not attractive at all. So let's speak to that. The non-traditional white coat wearing what we used to seeing and what we're seeing now. You came in during a time where things were transitioning. What was that like for you, finishing school, getting into the organization or the business of being a physician?
So it was tough. And let's call the elephant in the room out. Medical school, becoming a doctor is not easy. And there were multiple junctures where I wanted to quit. I wanted to tap out and say, you know what? Let me do something easier. And there were people in my life who would not let me quit. And one of those people was my mother. And she always had her finger on the pulse of what was going on with me, to the point where I remember I was in residency and I had been on call every third night in the ICU. And that meant going to bed late and getting up early. I mean, like getting up at 4 a.m., getting into the hospital, rounding on the patients, and then having to deal with when we go on rounds and we getting asked questions and expected to know. And there's a slang that those in the medical field call it. We call it being pimped. Okay. That means you get asked questions and they drill you, they drill you, they drill you, they drill you. But people's lives are on the line. And so one night I told my mom, I said, Mom, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. And so she didn't say a whole lot, but she heard what I wasn't saying. And that next day I get a page and my mother drove the 2 hours to where I was and was sitting in the residency officer, her office. She came to see about me to make sure I was okay. And so that is what we need in our lives. We need that person. We need those persons to not allow you to quit. One, to recognize that something's happening, but then to show up, to show out, to speak up. I'm gonna say to boss up and make sure that you continue going. So that was a pivotal place, a pivotal moment in my life.
Wow, great, amazing, amazing. So, I can imagine the amount of schooling that you had, and it speaks to a lot of discipline. Anyone that's an attorney, a doctor, or anyone that has to go to school and that type of extensive training takes a whole lot of time. So, kudos to you for sticking with it, and thanks to your mom because of what she did, and that pivoted moment allowed us to be able to connect with you later on. So we're excited that you stayed, and we're glad that you stayed. So I want to dive into we're still talking about Dr. Marcea from the physician perspective. Um, let's speak about, because you and I had a conversation off the air about the transition from the typical physician inside a doctor's office, and what was that made you kind of transition a little bit into diving deeper into helping people as opposed to just writing prescriptions. Let's
Mhm,
speak to that a little bit.
mhm, mhm. So I mentioned that my whole purpose for going into medicine was to help people. And so as I get into this space of seeing patients, what was happening is that patients come in, say their blood pressure's high, say they have their blood sugar's high. And, we have, the initial conversation, how things going. Okay, your blood sugar's high, your blood pressure's high. I already know in my head, my end game is we're trying to get the blood pressure, blood sugar down. What can I do to facilitate that? And most times that was me increasing medication. That was me prescribing medication. That was me trying to see what else was going on that made the blood pressure high to see if we could try to reverse it. But the piece that we weren't taught. We weren't taught to find out what was underneath of that person's blood pressure problem. Okay. Yes, it may be stress. Yes, it may be hereditary, but what's underneath it more is maybe they didn't take the medication that I prescribed last time, and we don't know it yet. But then after I found out that they didn't take it, now you got to go one more layer and figure out why they didn't take it. You know, maybe it caused a side effect. Maybe they just don't like medication. Maybe the medication that they're taking, they've been talking to their best friend or their coworker, and now they're afraid to take it because of some side effect that is associated or that they fear is associated. And then we go one more layer down is I now have to get to a place where I know what's going to motivate them. And that's definitely not something that we were taught. And so what I did is I transitioned, or I keep saying transition because I'm still doing the doctor part, but there's a different layer, there's a different paradigm, there's a different relationship when I find out what makes you tick, what moves the needle is what I call it. And once I find out what moves the needle, maybe it is you want to see your grandchildren. Maybe you want to be able to go to Disney World with your with your with your family. Maybe you want to do all these other things. And now I go to that to figure out how do I empower them to want to make the change. And maybe the change isn't medicine. Maybe it is exercise. Maybe it is going to see nutritionists. Maybe it is, I have to make sure I figure that out. And once I figure that out, then I don't have to quote unquote push medication on you. I don't have to try to I don't know, to trick you or to shame you to take the medication. And so that's the switch. And so I'm helping people in a different way by
Wow.
empowering.
Wow. That's deep because, I don't know if you guys noticed that the time that the doctor sees you now, before back in the day, you would get an hour, whatever time that was required to get to the root of what was bothering you. Now it's typically going to be 15 to 30 minutes, and they're pushing
Mhm.
on through. They have to diagnose you and get you treated and get on to the next person. So it's a little less personalized. So it is amazing that you thought to go layers and layers underneath to find the underlying issue on, because you know what, if you treat the underlying issue, you may not have to write prescriptions for problems.
Bingo. Ding, 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 ding.
Awesome. Awesome.
Absolutely.
So let's speak about, so that kind of, we're staying away from the word transition, but you kind of morphed over into coaching, mentoring, keynote speaking. Let's talk a little bit about the Girl Boss. What is this whole brand that you've created, Girl Boss Life?
Yeah. So I am the CEO of Girlboss Life Academy. And we talk about being a girl boss. And I believe behind every strong woman, there's the girl boss inside. And when I say that, I mean, when we started, when we were young, that girl had a mind of her own. that girl was shaped, that girl was molded. And no matter how far we get, those remnants are still around. And maybe you were, I'm going to say, maybe you were bullied when you were young. Maybe you were empowered when you were young. Maybe you had something tragic that happened when you were young. That thing is still forming and shaping you. And so we're only as strong as that girl boss inside. And so that's my mission, is to empower all the girl bosses, because I believe everyone's a girl boss. It just how developed that version of you is going to be different.
That's big. That's big. So there you have it, folks. We're in the beginning of understanding. We're unraveling who Dr. Marcea is, and where she come from, and how she got her career started, and how we ended up to this point where she's now coaching, speaking all across the globe. And we're going to dive into, I know you saw the picture of being featured on CBS and some other news outlets. Let's speak to the Forbes. You're featured in Forbes. I'm going to brag a little bit because since we've been speaking, you said nothing about your achievements and accomplishments, and that speak a lot to your character, because you didn't brag about yourself. But that's what I'm going to do tonight, because I'm proud. I'm CEO, and I'm proud to have you on board. So I need people to understand who you are. Let's speak about being featured in Forbes magazine. Let's speak about that. How did that come about?
Yeah, that was such an amazing moment for me. And I was asked to be a part of the publication. And there was the article that was written, talked about becoming your own X factor. And that the X factor is something that when I speak about it, and say for instance, I'm going to ask you, Rich, when you think of somebody who has the X factor, who do you believe? And actually, if you're also listening, I want you to put somebody in the chat. Put somebody in chat who you think is who has the X factor. Who would you say, Rich?
The X Factor, well, it'd be a long laundry list.
Okay.
The X
Anybody?
Factor, I would say myself.
Okay, I
I,
like that.
yeah, I would say the whole MSE team,
Mhm.
yourself. Um, I would say, I really don't know how to answer it because it's so broad, but I believe that the X Factor is that thing inside of you that makes you stand out
Exactly. And so normally when I ask the question, and I normally say somebody like in the public space,
in the
like
public
someone.
space. Okay, so I would say Eric Thomas, Tony Robbins,
Okay.
um, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, those
Okay.
people, the
I like it.
Beyoncés of life.
Yes. Yeah. So since I'll touch on, I don't know a lot of some of the personalities that you mentioned, but when I think about it, I think of Oprah.
Okay,
Okay. I think of even Tiffany Haddish or Michael Jordan.
Tyler
And
Perry.
so when you go back into their stories, you realize that they had some rough times.
Got it.
Okay. They weren't always the mogul that we see them as. They had some tough times, and then they had a pivot. They had a moment where they decided that they were going after that thing that they wanted.
Got it.
And so the X factor is not something that either we were born with, something that we picked up along the way. Okay. But as you said, you right off the jump, you said the MSC team. And so my belief is that everybody has that X factor inside of them,
That's deep. That's
but
deep.
it's not activated. It's not cultivated. It's lying dormant. And so, but when we decide to become the X factor for ourselves, that's when we start to shine and we start to rise. And now we start to boss up. We start to live in what it is we've been called to do. And so that was the I guess the crux. That was the bottom line of what the article in Forbes was. It was
So,
me
right.
sharing my. Go ahead.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So I get it. So it's the Cinderella story of life, like watching someone grow and go through the ranks. And while you're transitioning or going through the ranks, there are going to be pitfalls and valleys and obstacles. And what really keeps you going is the X factor. Like we're all going to fall, right? So it's not about the fall, it's about how you get up and how you continue. So I got that. That's a great nugget. Write that one down. Write that one down. That's a really good one. So you're featured in this magazine, and to be published multiple times is that is amazing. Because to be published, it's one thing to be featured or be in a news article, but to be published is a really big deal. So I'm excited about that. Let's speak about some of the other things that you've done. Just so you folks know, the ones that attended the MSE conference recently, you're looking now at your keynote speaker. She and I were trying to make it happen, and she was going to come speak. And she had prior engagement, but she was going to be there because she's a keynote speaker. But just recently, prior to the actual um, event that we had, the conference, you were speaking at, is it Yale?
I was
Yes. Let's talk about that.
blessed. I was blessed to be invited to speak at the women's conference at Yale University, and that was like the 1st of April. And it was such an exciting moment to be able to be on the campus, to be able to deliver a message, to be in the company of other powerhouse women. And that is what this life is about. It's about collaboration, just like you and I, Richard. It's about coming together, sharing what we have to give, then receiving what others have. And when we leave out of that room, we are now better. We're now empowered. I connected with a fellow entrepreneur who was from the UK. And by the time we were done, we were, I would say, thick as thieves. We shared, we had a deep connection because of the things that happened throughout the day. I supported her, she supported me. And then I met someone who she is a physician. She's a head of cardiology, cardiovascular surgery out in Oregon. And then I had another woman who she was a high level CEO who was on sabbatical. And so all of these relationships, I didn't like networking when I was younger, because I always felt like it was something I was that yucky, like I'm trying to get something from somebody. But when I realized that networking is about you being curious about the other person, and it's better to be interested instead of being interesting.
Wow. That's neat. That's,
And when I think that's a nugget. Is that a nugget?
yeah, that's a nugget. Write that one
That's
down.
a nugget. That's
Can,
a nugget. Somebody put nugget in the chat.
yeah,
Okay.
that's a nugget.
So once I learned that piece, it blew it up. I was like, okay, now I'm ready. And so it was about networking. It was about serving. It was about receiving what was there, and then leaving from there and changing the world.
Wow. Wow, and that is what you are doing, and now that's what we're doing. We've teamed up, and we're already working on some things. Iron sharpens iron, right? So this is exactly what we're doing. We're going to make an amazing team. We're already doing some amazing things behind the scene. So with that being said, if you have questions, put the questions in the chat. Let's chop her up a little bit. Let's ask, find out. I know you're curious, and I don't have an award on interviewing, so help me. Ask the questions. She is very down to earth. Really, really. I have a funny story I'm going to share with you guys. Um, on
Funny story. Okay.
Yeah, so I got a funny story I'm gonna share with you guys. But what I'm gonna do is give you an opportunity to get your questions in. If you have questions, Ronnie, do me a favor, drop the number in the chat. If you want to call, you want to ask a question, or just welcome her to our community, please do so. We'll be back in a few seconds. All right, stand by. I see you. I see you. I asked, do doctors dance? Do they have rhythm? So you let me know.
Of course we do.
All right. So if you just logged on, hopefully you didn't miss that great information. She's been dropping nuggets. We're here with Dr. Marcea, physician, keynote speaker, life coach, author, and so many more, too many titles to name, but those are just a few. A few. You are an author, right? So a couple
Yeah.
of times. There's one particular book that I actually love. I haven't had an opportunity to dive into it. Let's speak about that book. Stain. What is it? No, marked
Mark Mark
from
from birth.
marked from birth. Let's speak about that book. You guys
Mark
got to
from
read
birth.
this book and look at the cover. Let's speak about what inspired that book.
Yeah. So Mark from birth is the transformational journey from flawed to a fabulous, from fabulous. And so I wanted just to share first is that it took a long time for me to look in the mirror and say I was fabulous. Okay, so if you're listening, I just want you to tell me, kind of put in the chat if say fabulous if you already know you fabulous, then you just say it. Okay. And then if you sometimes you hesitate to say it, I want you to just put me. Okay. And so I was born with a birthmark on my face. I don't think you can really see it on camera, but it is a greenish nevis that's on my forehead and around my eye underneath and above it. And so what it was is that as I was growing up, when I was in grade school, when I was an adolescent, it was a problem. It was an issue for me, and I felt flawed to the point where I didn't I didn't raise my hand sometimes. I didn't ask questions. I did not look people in the eye because I felt self-conscious about it, and it robbed me of my self-esteem when I was coming through. And I used to try to cover it up. I used to, wear if I had bangs, I'm thinking, okay, it's covering it up. I used to wear glasses and that would cover it up. And then I started putting makeup on the birthmark. But I was in college when I finally realized, you know what? I'm doing all of this stuff. I'm thinking I'm covering it up, but I don't think people still see it. I was no makeup artist, so I was just plopping it on there, and it's kind of like the comb over. The balding guy with the combing over. Everybody but him sees that he's balding, and I had to just look myself in the face and say, you know what? I I'm me. I can only be me. And if you're not going to like me because of a birthmark on my face, then you're just not my people. And so as I stepped into this entrepreneurial space, in this coaching space, I had to tell my story. And it shares the journey from where I felt I was flawed to now where I knew that I was fabulous.
Wow.
And so when I say one of my affirmations in the morning is that I'm fabulous. And I've gotten to a place where it just rolls off my tongue because I 100% know that I'm fabulous, but it was a journey. There are times when I'm like, I'm fabulous with a question mark. But and Veronica says, I'm fabulous. Yes. Ronnie says fabulous. Yes. Okay. But when you know that you know that you know, there's no question mark. It's a period. And so
Wow.
that book is my period. And I share it with others to help transform that journey from being flawed to being fabulous,
Wow.
which is, and this birthmark is now my superpower
Wow.
as opposed to
So
being something that wasn't good.
if you probably can't see it so well because of the light, but it was very profound when I first saw you. It was very profound, and I was like, wow, she's beautiful, and she has. I mean, it's pretty prevalent in the very center of her face, but just hearing you speak and seeing you smile and laugh and just live a full life and just be, I'm like, man, she is fabulous, and ask your questions. But yes, Aisha, Ronnie, and Veronica, everyone is fabulous. Um, and I love the nuggets in the way that you're able to say that so humbly, but at the same time so confident. And that's a nice balance because it shows that you're connected with yourself, but also in this universe, you know your self worth, and you're not letting the shallowness of the world dictate who you really are, which is fabulous. So I applaud you on that. So
Yeah, can I say one other thing?
yes, you can.
So the message, you said the message in the music, okay? The message in this story is that we all have that flaw that we battle. Some of our flaws are visual, but other flaws are hidden. Some flaws are emotional, but each person has that critical moment where we have to decide if that flaw is going to take us down or if that flaw is going to propel us forward.
Wow.
And so that's the purpose of this of that book. It's the purpose of what I do as a coach. And that I find that place where it's a we think it's a negative. It's that challenge that we're up against, but that challenge is preparing you and propelling you and drawing you to that purpose where you're not only going to help yourself, but now you are helping others get to their journey.
That's big. That's big. So y'all get the book. The name of the book is
Marked from
Marked
birth.
from Birth. And wow, you came up with
Yes,
that. You came up with that title. That is a deep title.
I did.
So
I
follow
did.
her. Follow her on Facebook, Instagram, and all the social handles because you'll see the birthmark that we're speaking of. You can't see it so much now, but it is very profound. But she's very beautiful, and I'm just using that. I'm saying all these charming things because I'm about to get in trouble with what I'm about to say. So she was in Atlanta for her niece's graduation, and congratulations to your niece if she's listening. Graduate from Georgia. Is it Georgia Tech?
Georgia State
Georgia
with a,
State
a
University
PhD.
with a PhD. So congrats to her. So doctors running your family, obviously. I saw a picture where your father and yourself and now your niece. There's three generations of doctors. So congratulations to her and your entire family for you guys'
Thank you.
success. So that leads me to this other segue. So she came. She was in the Georgia area, and we met up at this spot, nice spot down at in Midtown area. I was a little late, full disclosure, but I live in Atlanta. So as I walk in, it was a restaurant. I walk in, and anybody ever watch Martin Lawrence, like the security guard? This guy looks like Otis. He probably was every bit of 4 feet 8, and he had a gun and a taser. He had all this stuff on me, and I walked in the door, and I was looking for Dr. Marcea, and she was sitting off to the side, and he walked up. He got really close in my face, and he said, "You had about 3 more minutes, and I was gonna take her from you." So at first I thought it was a joke, but he was like, "I can't believe you late, and I was just giving you a few more minutes, and she wasn't gonna be yours. She was gonna be mine." So I'm looking at this guy, and I'm looking at her. I was like, "Help me," but she didn't do anything. So we
Well,
got ready.
no,
Wait, let me
hold on,
tell my
because I was
story.
shocked. Okay, okay, go ahead. Tell
Okay.
your story. I'm
So
sorry.
she
Go
looked
ahead.
at it. I was like, "Okay, is this a joke?" So Otis he's got on all this tactical gear in this restaurant, and I was like, "What's going on?" And then this really big guy, huge guy, muscular guy. I'm 6'4", so this guy had to be at least 6'6", 6'7". He walks up to me and says, "Yeah, I was thinking about taking her too." So I was like, "What is going on?" I'm looking at Dr. Marcea. I'm like, "What is going on?" So as we were walking to get seated, I said, "You know those guys? Like, do you travel with security or something?" She was like, "I thought this was your spot. I thought I thought they knew you because you were regular." I said, "I don't know these folks." But that's to speak to how attractive she is in person, that the staff had already taken ownership of her in my tardiness. So I'm saying that because you are fabulous. I almost got jumped. I don't like the idea that you didn't look like you were going to help out, but hey, we made it through the night, right?
Look, can I tell my story
Yes, you
now?
can. Tell your side of the story.
Okay, so I walk into the restaurant, and as you said, you were late. So I have a seat and I was taking a phone call. And so things were just moving around me. One of the ladies who was the hostess, she kind of made sure she thought I was waiting to be seated. I'm like, I'm just waiting. And so I'm just kind of doing my thing. So then when you walk in and then the guy comes up, I'm thinking it's your spot. I'm thinking this is your friend. And you all are just kind of y'all about to dap each other up. And so I'm just kind of laying back. I'm thinking, okay, this is staged. And so when I'm asking you, I said, do you know them? And you're like, no. And so I had no opportunity to help you because I thought this was just how things go.
So when you're fabulous, like Dr. Marcia, you get automatic security without being being suggested or solicited. But this is a true story. But you had to see the guy that looks like Otis. Um, I hope he's not listening. But his teeth was, he looked just like Otis, and he spoke like him too, and he was really short. So anyway, I digress, but I had to get that story out there because it's a true story. I thought you were traveling with security or something, so I was like, oh, okay.
Next time.
So, leading into the 8 o'clock hour, we have about 9 more minutes. The doctor's gonna drop some knowledge with you guys. We're on the we're live with Dr. Marcia, and she's in the DMV area, and she's been sharing her story with us on how she got into the field and what she's been doing, what type of work that she's doing behind the scenes, and then we'll segue into her just giving us some knowledge and some inspiration as we move forward. Um, Welcome to the chat room. This is where it goes down. I'd like to know if there are any questions. I am going to start. No one's called, so I'm going to start asking these questions. I don't know if you can see. Um, from the DMV. It would be someone from the DMV, but she's a sweetheart, Yvette. What do you find most rewarding about your work? What are your biggest challenges? How much balance do you have between your career and your personal life? That's from Yvette in the DMV.
Mhm. So the first question is what do I find the most rewarding? And there's a parallel between when I was in medicine. What I loved is when I was able to diagnose someone and then they got better. And to see them kind of through that whole process, it was very rewarding. So if I come over to the coaching side, when I help someone get over a challenge and they get better, they get the aha moment. They now are able to live life differently. That's also rewarding. And so both of those, as I said, they kind of parallel. So that's the answer to the first question. What's the next question?
It's the balance. How do you keep a balance? What wait a minute. There's three questions. The next one is what were your biggest challenges, or what are your biggest challenges?
The biggest challenge for me, and I believe for every other person in life, it always comes down to what's looking at you back in the mirror. It's us. It's what's up here. It's what you're thinking because what you are thinking determines how you are feeling. What you are feeling determines what actions you take. And what actions you take determine your results. And so when you can change what's going on in the brain, that now changes your experience. It now changes your result. It now changes everything in your life.
Wow. There you have it in the DMV area. And the last part of her question, it was a three-part question, which is how much balance do you have between your career and your personal life?
Yeah, that's a good question, DMV. That's a very good question. And so the answer is that I don't speak about it in terms of balance. I think about it in terms of harmony. And if you think about a musical score, you have the treble, you have the bass, you may have some string, you may have some percussion. They all are on a different frequency. They're a different beat. There's different musical, whatever you want to call it. But when everything is playing together, now you have a beautiful song. And so that's what I strive for. I strive for the beautiful song. And some days I may get home late. Some days I may have to get up early. Some days I may not see my children until a certain time. But when all the pieces are beating and going at the same time, or when they're supposed to, it comes out and it's a great experience.
Appreciate that. That's a really good three phrase, three part question, Yvette. It was really, really good question, and thank you for answering that question. I have Sharon Eberhard on the line. Are you there, Sharon?
Good evening, Dr. Marcea. Hey, cousin. Hey, everybody. How are you?
Hey, Sharon, welcome.
Hey,
Hey, I just want to welcome you to the network. I'm one of the sponsors, and this is so exciting. This is amazing to have you on the show. Thank you, cousin. He's a hard worker, and I try to work right with him. And I want to just also say thank you for coming and your positivity and your smiles. Oh my goodness, this is just great. But
Thank you so much.
I wanted to ask a question. I said fabulous today because I work from home and you already know how that is when you work from home. You get real relaxed. And but the
Thank
question I
you.
want to ask is with you being in the medical field, how do you handle your emotions and keep it separate? And what do you do for self-care for yourself to have your me time?
Mm-hmm. So emotion. So there's a buzzword, a new field of emotional intelligence. And I'm gonna say the primary thing that I do is I get coached. There are times, there are so many things that have happened in life, even let's say since COVID, that I have had the opportunity to be coached. And so when that happens, now I process things in a different way. I process things faster than I used to. I have better awareness. I have deeper um, intuition or perspective. And so that is what I would suggest or recommend or share as the thing that helps me manage all of the thousands of things that have happened. And so I know I have greater capacity now because of the coaching that I've received. So
really.
that's the answer to the first question. And what was the second question?
And when do you have your me time for your self-care for yourself? How do you
Me
manage
time.
that?
Me time. Yeah, that's still a work in progress. But what I will say is that everybody has I'm going to say a formula. We think we have activities. We think it's okay, we're going to get our hair done, we're going to get our nails done, we're going to go shopping or even a girls trip. But I always say when you go on a girls trip, a lot of times the only thing that changes is your zip code. And so when you get back home, you walk through that door or Monday morning comes around, you're still in that same spot. You're still in that same situation. So it isn't so much the activity, but there are some other things that we may not have tapped into that maybe need to happen on a daily basis. Maybe it's prayer. Maybe it's getting a cup of coffee. Maybe it's having a conversation with a good friend. Maybe it is taking that trip. But there's multiple things that happen, and so we just have to figure out what our formula is, and then be intentional about getting it done. So I hope that answers
That's
the question.
it. That's it. That's great. Thank you so much, Dr. Marcia. Thank you so much and welcome again. And I can't wait to hear some more comments and your great nuggets. And have a great evening, okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Thank you,
calling.
Sharon.
Thank you,
Appreciate you so
Sharon.
much.
All right. You so diligently answered that question because, like I say, most of the listeners are going to be, we have male, but we have a predominant female audience. And I am always trying to inspire or instill positiveness into listeners just to stay encouraged because in today's society, there's always room for that. We're at a place where we're sponges for information and becoming better and things of that nature. So thank you for answering that question. Thank you so much for calling in, Sharon. So Yvette says you're reading the check. Congratulations to all of you. So you can give us a call. The numbers in the chat room. If you haven't joined the chat, you're listening on Facebook or any other platform, please feel free to join the family. No question is a bad question. The worst question is the one that you don't ask, right? So we're going to take a few seconds to switch over. When we come back on the top of the hour, we'll have Dr. Marcea just bless us with a whole lot of information on how we can connect with her, but also she has some information that she wants to share with us about what she's doing and why we need coaching and why do we need to understand how the physician side of her lateraled over into coaching and how it could help you move better and more fluidly. So we'll be back in a few seconds, all right? Dr. Marcea, the MSE Network. Y'all stay tuned.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rich. And this is Up Sis Up. Up Sis Up. I want you to put that in the chat. Put Up Sis Up. And I am Dr. Marcea. And what we are doing here, we are showing up. We are rising up. We are elevating up. We are bossing up. This is Women's Empowerment Radio, Tuesdays, 8 o'clock p.m. following Richard's show. And so I want to just start off by just thanking the MSE Network, thanking CEO Richard for inviting me onto this platform. And so I want to throw it back to you, Richard. I want you to tell me a little bit about you and how you came to doing this network.
All right. So to answer your question in short, how did I come to this network? I was a full service, or still am, full service audio visual technology company that provides audio visual professional services to events, conferences, concerts, things of that nature. 2020, moved up to Atlanta, COVID hit, and I had to pivot because I couldn't go out and do functions or events anymore. So I was asked, how do I remain relevant? I pivoted. I went back to the basics of who I was. I started out as a DJ from the 8th grade. So I started DJing and streaming, and I shared this link with a handful of family members and friends, and it kind of went viral. And now we're global. We're heard in so many other countries outside of the U.S., but also within the U.S. We've had over 200,000 listeners within the last 2 years. So we have
That's amazing.
Thank you. We have thousands of committed listeners. So this is pretty much in short. So the goal was to be able to have a platform and a foundation where all walks of life and all people are welcome, but we are in control of the information that we share. We're African American owned station, but the information that we share is not just for our community, but it is unapologetically intended to uplift and inspire and motivate, educate, and help people evolve with the gifts that we have. So all of the personalities and the staff members here at the MSE Network have something to offer back to its community. And this is one of the main reasons why I reached out to you, because I knew that your reach was just as large as mine, and that your influence And the things that you were doing would fit so perfectly into this organization, especially with such a dense female population of listeners. I'm always giving nuggets, but at some point, to inspire women, there's some things that I'm just not going to understand. So now we have Dr. Marcea that's going to kind of take the baton and help them understand from a real woman perspective and also a boss perspective.
Wow. So one, I just want to applaud you
Thank you.
for having the vision for what's about to go down here. But I also wanted also to celebrate, you said 200,000 listeners.
Yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's gives credit to what you've been doing, the impact that you're having, both locally, but nationally, and you even said internationally,
Yes.
because you're broadcasting to other countries.
Yes.
And that is great for exposure. That is great for what building a community and for reaching out. And so thank you for that. And but then I want to transition over into women empowerment. Now, you mentioned, you are a speaker, you are a coach, but you felt a need, or you wanted the listeners to have more, since most of your listeners are women, but you had the vision. And so I wanted just to stay there for a second. And as we are, because I'm all things women empowerment, and there's a reason why, but I want to talk tonight about how we get there. How do we empower women? And you are a great testament to the first part, is that there are men who empower women. And so I just want to ask you the question: what was your influences in terms of why is it so passionate for you?
Which part? Empowering women?
Yes.
Well, realistically, in today's society, where women have had difficult times as being front people that lead, and me being raised by a beautiful mother, surrounded by so many beautiful women in my life, but my upbringing was solely around women, and I had this keen sense of understanding women. To some degree, most of it evolved around the ability to be passionate, to be patient, and to understand how to communicate. And in today's society, most men have been taught to be so masculine and so strong that we're often not willing to be vulnerable enough to listen or to be heard. So those are one of the things that I was taught as a young man coming up, is to be patient and to be understanding and know how to communicate, and know that women communicate a little bit different than men do. So being raised with sisters helped me understand that. But then fast forwarding to now, they're leaders in my organization. Danielle Brown, TK Barlow, these are leaders. They're running the MSE network behind the scenes, because I understood that women lead differently than men, and they have a different perspective. And we typically lead, men typically, myself, we lead with ego. So I said to myself, if I remove my ego and put people in places that belong in these places, that are true leaders with a different perspective, who happen to be female, I said that would be magnificent. And when I did that, immediately, instantaneously, the results were so rewarding. And that's my passion for not just women empowerment, but just empowering people altogether. And that is the foundation of what this whole network is about, is building people, because like you say, everyone's a boss. All women are bosses, right? And that's my motto here, that I'm no one's boss, that everyone is a boss. You're a boss of everything that you do. So we have people in so many different positions. Their only responsibility is to be a boss at whatever it is that they're bringing to this organization. And you see, if you go to each channel, each channel is about each boss. And you have your own channel, and you're the boss of whatever it is that you're bringing to the network.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And I don't want this moment to pass by. I want you to shout out your mom. I know she's listening. She is, I think, one of your original listeners. Go ahead and shout her out.
I want to shout out my mom, and who's Silver Fox, you hear me allude to, Silver Fox, and also Miss Freeman and Ms. Inez. I call them the three amigos because they're my eldest and most seasoned listeners, but they're the most dedicated listeners that I've ever seen in my life. And for them to take on a challenge of, going into this technology, clicking into this link, finding on how to look at this guy and be committed to it, it meant the world to me. So we were able to honor them. So I want to honor Evelyn, my mom, Miss Inez, and Miss Freeman, and everyone else, all the other women, and then of course my beautiful daughter, who's my life coach, Laura, and my beautiful wife, Lena, who puts up with me as I try to build this thing and spend a whole lot of time away. So I just want to acknowledge everyone publicly. But thank you so much for allowing me to give that plug.
Absolutely, you have to do that. And so the next thing you said that was so powerful, you said men lead differently than women. And I want to kind of dive that down a little bit deeper to that, is that when we talk about women's empowerment, in the same sentence, we're also alluding to men's empowerment. But I found that men and women operate differently in that space. And what I mean by that is that if you have, say there's something going on, say you're leading and there's a problem at the office, there's a problem in the business, from my conversation with other men, regardless of what happens, men, and correct me if I'm wrong, men don't question their leadership.
No, you're correct. We never do.
Okay. Say it again.
We never do.
You never do. Okay. So something goes down, say the company goes bankrupt, and that gentleman is going to go home, put his feet up on the table, watch the game, throw back a beer if that's his drink of choice, go to sleep well, and then go to work the next day and work on trying to fix it.
Absolutely.
Correct? Okay. So women, okay, we're going bankrupt. The company is going under. We have worried ourselves to pieces. We have questioned, second guessed ourselves. Were we the right fit? Were we the right person? What did we do wrong? How could we have done it differently? When should we have pivoted? What's going to happen to all of the employees? What's going to happen with this person? How are we going to fix it? We would have gone home maybe, or stayed at the office as late as we could. Our stomach would have been all twisted and turned. We would have needed Gas X, Pepcid, Prilosec, Nexium. We would have cried our eyes out. We would have called everybody we knew, and we wouldn't have slept a wink. And then we're back in the office, hoping that that our key still works in the door.
True.
So I'm going to ask you, what's your takeaway from there? What comes to mind?
What comes to mind is that one, men throw shorter pity parties. We get over things a lot quicker because we're surface thinkers. Like we live outwardly. We suffer in silence, but women typically do both. Women are typically, from my perspective, are really hard on themselves. And most often, they're harder on themselves than men are on them. So by the time I'm at a point where I want to criticize you or ridicule you something, you're probably already at a level 10 before I've even said my first thing. So what men don't understand is that the minute a man says something to them that may be harsh, we don't understand why you're crying. I just started. Well, she's been taunting herself or crying on the inside long before you got to the point where it became intolerable for you. That's my take on it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's so good. That is so good. And so that is why we need a different kind of empowerment for women, because we have been more critical of ourselves. And even before, as you say, before the person has said it. And so that means also that there are a lot of touch points earlier on where we're open, or that we're able to be reached. Okay. And so that's the women's empowerment. And the first point was that men are important to women's empowerment. I'm sitting here because you saw an opening, a door, a need.
Yes.
Okay. And as I look back on some of the men that have been a part of my life, the very first one is my dad. And I actually wrote a book. He and my mother were killed in a car accident in 2006. And I wrote a book called Daddy's Girl, which talks about living after the loss of a legend. But through that, my dad, he was the beginning of my self-esteem. And as I just kind of look back on the role that he played in my life is pivotal. But then I'm gonna pan out and say there are some people who did not have a strong base with their father. And so, Rich, I'm going to ask you, what does empowerment, I'm saying in general, whether we're talking about women or men, what does empowerment look like for those who may not have had that solid base?
Well, to answer that question, what does empowerment look like to those who may have not had that base? Is one, it doesn't look like much at all, because what sometimes we look at resources and things and people for empowerment, and I believe that when you start to recognize that the power is inside you, and that you have every tool and every instrument to empower yourself. Sometimes you can motivate yourself. Sometimes you can empower yourself. But we often, like you said, daddy's little girl, my daughter would stump her feet, which just happened in the studio, by the way. She stumped her feet, and she looked at mom and began to cry. And then she looked at me and she stopped. So she sees me as this powerful figure, and she saw my strength, and she just stopped. She's limping, but she stopped. So the point I'm trying to make is sometimes we look outwardly for the strength that we don't know that we have. So I didn't have the power to make her not cry. She had the power. I just gave it to her. And sometimes I think, as it relates to empowerment, we have to understand where it comes from. And when your foundation is not powerful, we often believe that we have to live on sand as opposed to creating a powerful foundation. Like, you can create your own powerful foundation from this particular moment and build from where you are. But then we often equate where we are, what we look like, the time, the money in our bank accounts, and we based our foundation off of things that are very, very non-essential to being empowered. So in short, I guess it's too late to say in short, but what does empowerment look like to me, to people that did not have that foundation? It could be a sign of hopelessness, because it's easier to build from something that's solid, right? So it's hard to build when you're already on a foundation that you don't feel is solid. So that's what this whole network is about, is to take away the excuses of being able to find the power in you. Like, where's your superpower? It's inside of you. So I'm challenging you, Dr. Marcea, myself, Dat Cat Dave, TK Barlow, and Danielle Brown. I'm charging you guys to just be the facilitator to help navigate towards the power. We're not giving it. We're helping you identify it because it belongs to you. It's already in you.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. That's good. Look, challenge accepted.
Thank you.
All right. I want to see Danielle, TK, and Dave. And I think, did I miss somebody?
No, that's everyone.
Okay. I want y'all in the chat. I want y'all to say challenge accepted. And all those, the listeners that are in the chat, go ahead and put challenge accepted, because we're doing this together. This is a group effort. And even though we have men who are giving women's empowerment, there are other women who are giving women's empowerment. But as Rich has so eloquently said, the real power is in you. The real power is you deciding that you are going to rise to the challenge. We're all in this race to get someplace. We can get help along the way, but only you can cross the finish line. Only you can ring the bell. And so that is what this women's empowerment movement, women's empowerment radio, what Rich has started, that we are now coming on board, partnering, and all those that will come and that are here already. We are helping you. You said facilitate. We're facilitating the process. Welcome back, everybody. And so this is Up Sis Up. And so the challenge is, are you ready to help others get to the finish line? Okay, in this empowerment zone. We can push them across the finish line, but we can help to facilitate getting them there. And so that's what the challenge is, coming together to make the community better.
That's big. That's what this is about. Making the community better. I like your frame of questioning me to get the information out to everyone, to kind of, and this is not rehearsed, right? So this is not scripted. We're having an honest conversation, and I had no idea she was going to ask me these questions. She had no idea what I was going to ask her. So this is an organic, conversation that's real, coming from two passionate people about helping other people. So I appreciate y'all hanging on with us during the technical difficulties. But hey, we're here with Dr. Marcea live. I'm in the ATL, and technology won't it do it. I'm in the ATL and she's in the DMV area, and we're having a wonderful conversation. So let's reiterate what this challenge was about. Was helping others, right? You used the word destiny quite a bit. Can you speak to that a little bit? Why is that? Because that sounds like such a, like, master destiny is somewhere in your title. Can you tell them a little bit about what that means?
It is. There's a place that we are supposed to go that is connected to our purpose. It's our destiny. And so many of us never reach it because we're waiting for it to drop right in our lap. And there is a visual that I love to use. It is, think about a bird and they eat worms. And so, Richard, just kind of go with me. Where are the worms in the world?
In the ground, at the bottom
In
of
the
the
ground.
earth. Mm-hmm.
In the ground. Okay.
Yes.
The worm doesn't fly up to the bird, but the bird has to do what?
He has to find the worm.
Yeah. The bird has to go get it.
Go get it. Yes.
Has to go get it. And so that's how we get to our destiny. We don't just wait for that. We mentioned my niece. The PhD doesn't just drop in our lap. We have to go after it. The destiny doesn't just, it's not given to you boxed up with the bow tie. You have to now do something in order to get there. And so when I talk about the destiny, that's that place, our destination, that we have to work towards it. And one of the things I am, as I said, the master destiny life coach. And so I help women discover who they are, decide what they want, and then deliver on that destiny, like giving them the strategy, giving them the structure, and then giving them the accountability so that they keep going. Just like when I mentioned that first hour, what my mother helped me do when she heard I was struggling in residency, she drove to the hospital, was sitting in that office, and she was giving me a push. She was saying, you got to keep going. And that's what we need. We need people in our lives that are not going to pull us down, but they're going to push us so that they can feel the momentum going in the direction of their destiny.
Wow. Wow. So there you have it, folks. The destiny and also the challenge of getting up. Like up, sis. Get up, sis. Up. So basically it sounds to me like it's an acronym for movement, right? Mm-hmm. For some type of movement.
Yes, forward movement, upward movement, positive movement, because we can move. I like to say in the course of our day, we take lots of action, but sometimes we're going in the circle. We're on the roller coaster. We're going on the same thing. We're living the same life year after year. But when we say go up, sis, up, that means we're going in a positive direction. We're taking empowered action. And it's that action that's going to get you the result that you want. Not just any action, but empowered action. Somebody put empowered action in the chat if you hear me. Empowered action. Because that's what's going to get you to your destiny.
Wow. Empowered. Put that in the chat room if y'all heard that. Empowerment. Empower action, right?
Empowered action. Yep.
Empowered
all day.
Action. That's what it's all about.
All
so
day.
while we're waiting on those responses, first of all, feel free to ask the questions in the chat. Feel free to call us. But most importantly, let's dig into it. Let's figure out what it is. I have a couple of questions for you. One of them is why do you believe, or what is the factor that prevent most women from moving forward in their desires or dreams to achieve something that's inside of them? What do you believe prevents them from getting past that point?
Mm-hmm. So to give context to your question, I believe there are two types of women. And I see this when I'm coaching women, is that they're the ones that they were born with that tenacity. They are born with, I don't care what you think. I don't care who you are. I'm just going to, bullnose my way to the front and I'm going to go get it. Okay. But then there's all the rest of us. I would say, I don't know the percentages, but I would just guess, I would say at least 80% of us are you know what? I am going to help everybody else. I am going to push other people into position. I'm going to give my spot away so that you can do it. And some of that is because of how society has raised us. That's how we were taught, even when there were no words that actually said it. You know, we go through life and we believe that once we get married, we're supposed to make sure everybody else is good. And if we eat, figuratively, but also in reality, we eat after everyone else has eaten. Okay. And then we get to a place where we find ourselves, we're fat, 40, and our hair's falling out because we haven't done any self-care. We haven't invested in ourselves. We haven't pushed through because we didn't believe that we could. We were waiting for someone else to come save us, to give us permission. And so to answer the short answer to, well, yeah, the short answer after the long answer is we haven't given ourselves permission
Wow.
to go get it.
Wow. Thanks. That's a very, very elegant way of putting that that answer. That leads to my next question. I'm just kind of taking over your show a little bit, but you invited me back, so I'm
It's
here.
all right. Let's go.
So my question to you is, what is it? Because, I coach quite a few women frequently. And what I notice is that for some reason, women feel as though everything must take place prior to them pursuing or desiring whatever it is that they want for themselves. So the kids must be this, all these things must fall in place. And if they're in the place where it feels like there's no room, then they say, well, we're fine at that place because everything else is taken care of. And then it's a two-part question, which is what makes them feel that way. And then the second part of the question is, I'm noticing a trend of the women that I coach often start later in life desiring or pursuing their dreams or their vision. And most often it's when kids are old enough and relationships are mature enough. Why do you think that is?
Mm-hmm. So the reason why I think women wait later is it starts off because there's a belief error or a thought error. We believe that's what we should do. We believe, goes back to letting everybody else eat. We believe that it is not our time until we're empty nesters. It's not our time. And so that's a thought error. And it goes back to when you're on a plane and the stewardess comes out and she pulls out the oxygen mask. Okay. And she says, in the case that we lose cabin pressure, what are you supposed to do? Richard, what are you supposed to do?
Put yours on first.
Correct. Right. We're supposed to put ours on first, and then we're supposed to help somebody else.
Yes.
Okay. But that only for women, that only works on an airplane. Okay. In the world that we live in, we are putting our oxygen on somebody else, and then someone else, and then someone else, and someone else, and someone else. It's a thought error. But if you think about it, if I put my oxygen on first, now, because I am a girl boss, now that I've got full oxygen, now I can help other people better. It comes from also pouring. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Ooh.
But if you fill your cup, now you have more to pour. It's a thought error that has been perpetuated for our lifetime. And the thought error starts to change once we hit 40. Okay, once some things start to happen and we start to wake up. You know, we're dying of asphyxiation, but then somehow we get a burst of oxygen. We're like, hold on, something has to give. I done waited all this time and I'm not getting the results that I think I should be getting. And then you say, you know what? Now I'm over it. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to pursue the things that I said I wanted. I'm going to go ahead and get mine. But in the midst of that, we're still blessing the people that are in our community. We're still, but because we can bless them now better than we could if we waited to take care of ourselves later.
Wow. That's big. That's big. So that takes a shift in thinking. What advice will you give the listeners on how to change the current mindset that they're in?
Mm-hmm. The same advice I would give a basketball player or a golfer who wants to change his shot. How you change your shot, you can't change it yourself. You need someone who is skilled in shot changing. Okay, whether that is you get a coach. Okay, you get an offensive specialist, you get a defensive coach, you get a batting coach. Maybe you're a writer, you get a book coach, a writing coach. Maybe you want to, get the six pack. You go get a personal trainer. Maybe you want to run a 5K marathon or a marathon. You go get a running coach. Okay. We're trying to DIY our life, but in every other area, we are looking for experts, specialists to help us. And not only just one specialist. Any professional athlete, they have more than one coach. Why are we suffering in life, the most important part, by ourselves? Why are we muted, afraid to tell a story of what happened? Because we're afraid of being embarrassed. We're afraid of sharing. But as soon as we open up our mouth, so we're talking about, this is upsets up. We're talking about rising up. We're talking about speaking up, and we're talking about bossing up. But when you tell your story, that's when the chains start to break. Not only for yourself, but there's somebody else who needs to hear your story. And they need to hear how you have come out of it. That's the transformation. That's the life-giving part of what it is that we do.
Wow. That's powerful. Ask your questions in the chat room. This is some powerful stuff. This is what we're gonna have each and every Tuesday at 8:00. Nuggets like this. Wow. So, based on the last answer that you gave, leads to this question: why do women often find themselves feeling voiceless? Like they suffer in silence. They feel like they can't necessarily speak their mind or express themselves. There's this fear of being perceived something other than what they actually are.
Mm-hmm. That's a loaded question, meaning it's multifaceted. But the thing that I would say that kind of encapsulates it all is that we live our life looking for external validation.
Ooh, say that again.
We live our life looking for external validation. We're looking for it being okay. We're looking for validation from our family. We're looking for validation from our significant other. We're looking for validation from our job. We grew up playing games like Simon Says, Mother May I, Red Rover, Ring Around the Rosie, whatever it is, we're playing those games as an adult. And by definition, because we're playing by those rules, we can no longer think outside the box. We can no longer color outside the lines. We're boxed in, and it's time to break out. And that is what we are doing here at Upsis Up. This is Women's Empowerment Radio. We are breaking out of the box.
There you have it. Wow. Powerful, powerful. Each and every Tuesday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Please bring a friend. This information is powerful. We have our own life coach, physician, keynote speaker, also author of several books. And she's doing some amazing things. We're working on a project together, and we're already at work. Let me ask this question. Well, I'm asking it not necessarily, I'm asking it on the behalf of the women audience listeners. In the male-dominating world, as entrepreneurs, how do you navigate being an attractive female who's trying to do business when you know that it's predatory out there? Like it's really challenging. How do you navigate? What kind of suggestion would you give someone that's trying to navigate?
Show up. Let's start there, right? Show up. Sometimes you may not get a seat at the table. And that means either you bring your own table, or you are just persistent and you allow the doors. Sometimes there's always doors being presented, and some doors are not so much going to be good doors, but there are others that will be. And take the risk. Be okay to try a door and just see where it goes. You know, use your business sense, your business skills, but sometimes we think doors are locked, but sometimes the doors are just closed and we just have to turn the knob. So spend some time turning the knob. The other thing that we tend to do is we want the whole picture laid out for us. And that's not how it works. Take the first step, and then the next decision will be in front of you. Don't quit. Keep going. Keep moving forward. And show up.
Show up. That's what she's saying. Show up. So I'm going to read a couple of comments before we hop off. I want to thank you, Doctor. You know, I knew that you'd be an amazing asset to this organization because you and I had spoken several times, and I knew how powerful you were. And I hope, put a 1 in the chat room if this information is really, really resonating with you, because listen, you have a reason to come back each and every Tuesday. You have me at 7 o'clock. Matter of fact, you have that cat Dave, 6 o'clock, working you out absolutely free. Physical fitness, getting your body right, getting in shape and staying healthy. And then you have me, who I will be motivating you and trying to get us out of those places that stagnate us in our desires and our goals and our dreams. And then following me, Miss Dr. Marcea is going to drop the mic each and every Tuesday, 8 o'clock, with this empowerment conversation. Upsis up. Like, it's time to get up. It's time to get up. So moving forward, and I'm going to read this real quick before I make this last comment. First of all, thank you to each and every member of the organization, and also those who took the time to log in and welcome and love on Dr. Marcea and thank her for all the work she's doing. Yvette, I love your engagement. Sharon made a comment. Yes, so exciting. Thank you for the positive nuggets. Yvette says, thank you, Dr. Marcea, for helping us become more aware of the problems and the ways we can help solve them. I am grateful for the time you spent with us dropping these important nuggets. And thanks to Yvette and Sharon and all the ladies, my mom especially, and Miss Freeman, Veronica, Miss Inez, the whole staff. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. I have another personality that will be joining us tomorrow, Wednesday, at 7 o'clock. It's going to be TK Barlow, and she's going to be with Danielle Brown, on the ground with Danielle Brown. And they're two lady bosses. So we have a lot of women bosses. That's what we're about, because it's not about, your race, your creed, your sex. It's can you do the job? Yes. And that's why we're where we are. So thank you so much. My mom says, thanks, Hicks family. Evelyn says, thanks for the amazing nuggets tonight. My son, Rich Live, Dr. Marcea, love the show. Teachable and inspiring topic. Man, it is so amazing to have you join us and have your perspective come to us. And I'm just reading. I want to acknowledge everyone that's loving on what you're saying. Veronica is one of our very loyal listeners, says, wow, to the previous conversation we had, which is deep conversation. Thank you, Dr. Marcea, and once again, welcome to the MSE family. Looking forward to next Tuesday, to be blessed and safe and have a wonderful rest of the week. And with that being said, I'm going to let you tell the folks what to expect from you moving forward, and how to govern themselves and how to, connect with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Richard, for this space, for this platform. And I'm just excited. This was a great conversation. I love the interaction in the chat room. We even had someone call in the earlier hour. And so as we're going forward, this is Up Sis Up. This is Women's Empowerment Radio, where we are rising up, where we are speaking up, and we are a bossing up. And so I'm going to have some guests that are going to be coming on. I have one that's actually on the call tonight, Dr. Rhonda M. Wood. She's a mental health expert, and she'll be gracing the airwaves in a couple of weeks. I will have other guests on. And so what we're doing, we're empowering women. We are encouraging, and we're getting transformation. That's what I'm about. It isn't just talking about it, but I want it to seep down into to change who you are, so that you are taking an empowered action and getting to that destination, which is what Rich and I spoke about earlier. This is about destiny. This is about getting to your purpose, getting to the goal, and along the way helping someone else.
There you have it, folks. Dr. Marcea, physician, keynote speaker, author, also mentor and life coach, and so many other things. But most importantly, she's a radio personality right here on the MSE network, and we're so proud to have her. And you're making a difference already. So thank you so much. We know you have a busy schedule, and doctors are busy. And she has a very full schedule. So we're honored to have you take the time out of your busy life and come and leave us with some fortune. So we appreciate you. We love you. And I want to publicly welcome you. We've been talking. We will continue to speak. But I want to publicly acknowledge you and all the work that you do, and acknowledge everyone else that's a part of this organization, all the team members. Where's my girl? I didn't see her in the chat. Karen Bryant, also Ronnie and Music, TK Barlow, Danielle Brown, and that cat Dave, and the rest of the MSC crew. Thank you guys so much. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please share this. When you see us on Facebook, Instagram, or wherever we are on social media, tell people what we're doing. We're doing wonderful things. You can follow Dr. Marcea at Dr. Marcea. It's MarceaMarcea.com. Follow her, stay engaged, ask questions. She's a physician as well as a life coach. So you have so much that you can pull from her, and she's tangible, she's available, and she's very responsive. So we appreciate it. So with that being said, I want to say thank you guys. Any final words, Dr. Marcea?
You get to create your experience in the world. You decide and make the decision and go for it. Show up and go get it.
There you have it. Hey, this has been a Rich Live production, and thank you for allowing me to be on your show tonight. I would love to come back whenever you have me, but I enjoy just being a student. Sometimes it's good to be on the other side and learn and be coached as well. And we're going to be coaching each other. So there's power between both of us, and iron sharpens iron. So I am humbly grateful that you're here, and hopefully we inspired you, and the listeners did as well. And we're going to uplift you.
Absolutely. I love the community. I love the camaraderie. And above all, I love the invitation. Thank you for having me. And we are about to go in and do some great things. Thank you. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for taking the time. We know we went over a little bit, but we love you. We love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Until the next time, Rich Live Production, MSE Network. See ya!